Is anybody saying anything? I don't hear a sound.
We're all muted. Just waiting for people to log in, and we'll get started in a few minutes. But there is some chat going on. People are introducing themselves. We have people from North Carolina. We have Illinois. We have Brazil. Uh, it's great to see people from other countries visiting us and joining us. We'll get started just about after 7 p.m. Just give a few minutes for people to log in at the last second, update their client, and then get on, and then we'll get started. Fort Worth, Texas. Oh, Utah. Great.
Came all the way to Australia just was already scheduled.
We'll give everybody a few more minutes to get on and then we'll go ahead and get started. It is 7 o'clock Pacific time. We will give everybody about 3 more minutes to log in, update their Zoom, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Looks like we have quite an impressive number of people from outside of Los Angeles City joining us tonight. We have visitors from North Carolina, from near Chicago and Illinois, from Brazil. We have Fort Worth, Texas, Carbon County, Utah, Maryland start joining us. Of course, Venice Beach, which is part of the LA area. Arcata, California. I'm not sure where that is, but I'm guessing Northern California. Detroit, Michigan, and Martinez, California. Silicon Valley. Highland Park, California, part of Los Angeles. Yamhill County, Oregon, cert. Arcata is part of Humboldt County. Hollywood Dell, Massachusetts. Yeah, we really appreciate you joining us. We do these presentations every third Tuesday of the month. I'm sorry, third Wednesday of the month. And we do enjoy seeing visitors from all over the country, as well as people from international. The Community Emergency Response Team program was started here in Los Angeles, but it has been taken nationally and then even internationally. And a lot of the skills that we teach, it's really translates universally. And we really do think that this benefits everyone. So we hope that the people joining us on YouTube can see this in perpetuity, but if they can't join us tonight, then obviously be able to visit and watch this. Chin, did you want to make your comments now or as I'm getting into the presentation?
Go on and give your opening, and I'll get into it, before you get into it, and we'll go from there.
All right, sounds good. Good evening, everyone. My name, Arcata. Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Patrick Botts Forbes. I am the LAFD, that's Los Angeles Fire Department, Community Emergency Response Team Central Bureau Coordinator. And this is our third Wednesday of the month, CERT Continuing Education Training. We started these continuing education trainings during COVID when we went into lockdown and we couldn't host community meetings in person anymore. And the idea of these continuing education trainings are really three general areas: beginning, intermediate, and advanced topics. This is probably a mix of the beginner and intermediate. Beginner topics I see are topics that are taught in the CERT training, and then we revisit them and refresh you on them. Intermediate topics introduce new topics and kind of the next steps after the basic level of training that you would get from the Community Emergency Response Team class. And then advanced topics are really pulled from a lot of the ICS trainings, the Incident Command System trainings that FEMA puts on, some involving in-person or online training, and really boiled down for the Community Emergency Response Team group. The basic CERT training doesn't talk about radios. And it is something that we do see most CERT teams do use, but it is really an add-on. So I think it is a basic topic. However, I put this kind of in their intermediate as well, just because it is not taught at the basic level. However, it is definitely something we recommend everybody learn how to do. Because efficient communications using two-way radios can really make the difference between a team being able to operate over multiple blocks versus being limited to where you can send a runner to. The scenario for tonight's presentation is It's 7:06 p.m. and you're settling at home, and suddenly there's a loud bang that not only do you hear it, but you feel it. It rocks the entire neighborhood. Your house shakes, your windows rattle, things even maybe fall off your walls or off your bookshelves. You hear car alarms going off up and down the street, and then power goes out. You reach for your cell phone, turn it on, and in the darkness, you see there's no phone signal. So, what do you do? Step one, well, actually, step zero would be to check on your family. Make sure your family's safe. Make sure that everyone's okay. Then, once you have an idea of that, your house is safe, there's no damage. Step one is turn on your two-way radio. Because if your cell phone doesn't work and you pick up your landline, if you still have one, if you have a cable provided landline, that doesn't have the same system that the old plain old telephone systems use, where power is provided through the telephone line itself. Cable requires backup battery. So if your lights are out, that backup battery is keeping your phone, in theory, operational. What you also don't realize is that there's backup batteries that run at the cable infrastructure along the way. And if those batteries die, it doesn't matter if you have power at your cable line, at your cable provided telephone, and that is not going to work. So really, our infrastructure is on the fragile side of things. And especially as things modernize, a lot of the tried and true technology out there, in an effect to make it better and more reliable, actually can become more fragile and likely to break during a disaster. So, when do you turn on your two-way radio? Well, when something unusual happens. If there's a power outage, you hear an explosion, there's bangs or a gunshot, maybe fireworks, anything that is not your normal, this is what happens at 7 p.m. every day, or there's some sort of disaster, earthquake, tornado, whatever has startled you, and you want to get situational awareness. And that is exactly why you turn on your radio. You want to communicate. And if your cell phone doesn't work and you can't bring up the Citizen app or the various apps that are out there that give you kind of an idea of what the professionals are doing or allow the community to weigh in, then you have to be able to communicate somehow. And that's where two-way radios really come in. You want to know what caused this power outage? What was that explosion? What caused your building to shake? Are there first responders on site? Where is it? And most importantly, is there a danger to this community that you're in? You can also preemptively turn on your radios if you know that something is going to happen. A lot of storms, hurricanes, high winds, fire danger, Santa Ana's, powerful rainstorms, they're forecasted. And so you can preemptively talk to your neighbors and get on the same radio channel ahead of time, because if things start to go south, you have that radio already turned on and ready to go, and you know who you're going to communicate with. And the reason why you're going to do this is because you want to organize a response if you need to. If things go badly, it might be difficult to get a hold of the first responders, the professionals. If you can't call 911 because your cell phone doesn't work or your landline is not operational, then what's going to happen? How are you going to get help? And if you are CERT trained, then you want to be able to do the greatest good for the greatest number in the shortest amount of time. So who are you going to be talking to on your two-way radio? Well, your immediate neighbors, for certain. Two-way radios are not magical. They don't necessarily communicate extremely long distances. They can, but you have to have infrastructure. You have to have antennas, repeaters, a little bit more than just the basic run-of-the-mill handy talkie radio. If you do have some more advanced communication groups out there, in the city of Los Angeles, we have the Auxiliary Communication Service, or ACS. LA County has the Disaster Communication Service, DCS. There's a whole network of radio repeaters out there called the PAPA repeater system that have had a lot of investment put into it to keep them up and running during a disaster. And then, of course, what kind of radio? If you look at any kind of radio, there's different types out there, different types of handy talkie radios. The most common, easiest to get a hold of are called Family Radio Service radios, or FRS. You can buy these at Best Buy, Amazon, Costco. You can get them pretty much everywhere, and they're relatively inexpensive. Now, the prices are going to vary, but you're going to see some for as cheap as $10 a radio. You're going to see some as expensive as $100 a radio. Typically, they're sold in packs of 2, because it doesn't do you really that much good if you have a single radio and you don't have anyone to talk to. So the family radio service, family being the operative word, means that they are meant for a family to be able to talk to each other. Think about if you're at an amusement park, and you split up, 2 people with radios can talk to each other. Now, that's assuming that the amusement park lets you bring them in the first place. I went to the Renaissance Fair, and I happened to have a radio in my backpack, and they were not happy that I had that radio. I had to explain that I'm a disaster response person, and I happened to have the radio with me, but I had no intent to use it, and they made me promise not to turn the radio on. Cruise ships are another good place for radios, especially if you are on a particularly large cruise ship and it's hard to keep track of your family. You can talk across multiple decks, up and down, and across the entire ship using just family radio service radios. There are more advanced versions of the FRS radios called GMRS, or General Mobile Radio Service. These are a little bit more powerful. They have detachable antennas, quite a bit more capable radio. But whereas family radio service radios, anyone can use them without a license. You don't have to pay for it or take a test. With GMRS, you do need to pay for a license. However, it is still really meant for the family. GMRS was meant for family farms. And so a single GMRS license covers your immediate family. So if you have a farm, you have kids that are working on the farm, your significant other, your husband or wife, you're all covered by that single license. And there's even repeater capabilities. So if you're on a larger farm, you can have a GMRS repeater, and it's all covered by the same license. And everything just really works pretty well. But legally, you do need to have that license. So don't just go out and buy a GMRS radio unless you're ready to get the license. There's something called MURS, Multi-Use Radio Service. It's not as common or as flexible as FRS and GMRS. But it is that also means it might be less utilized in your area. In LA City, MURS is actually quite used because FRS and GMRS are heavily utilized, and so some people have switched over to MURS because it is supposed to be less used. But I can hear them all the time on that. Those radios are significantly more expensive than FRS and GMRS radios. But there's no license required as well. And they are more powerful than FRS radios, but not as powerful as GMRS radios can be. So they're kind of in the middle there. But like I said, the radios themselves are probably about $150 each. The old school Citizen Band, CB radios. We don't talk about them on the cert side as much, and amateur radio ham operators tend to look down on CB, but whatever works, works. And having multiple options, multiple capabilities is always a good thing. So having CB or Citizens Band radios, if you have other people to talk to on it, can be an advantage. And then finally, there's amateur radio, and that's it's multi-purpose. You do require a license to use amateur radio or ham radio, and you can talk all across the world with it. You can talk to the International Space Station with it. You can build your own amateur radio. It's really as much or as little as you want it to be. You can buy an ham radio, get your license. All you have to do is take a test, and there's free study material on the internet for that. And then you can do pretty much anything you need to be able to do with that basic license. You can then get more advanced licenses, the general or the amateur extra licenses, and you can really do, you can send data, you can transmit television on amateur radio. There's bands that are in the higher frequencies in the gigahertz range. So people do Wi-Fi using amateur radio licenses. But at a basic level, you can just buy a radio, get your license, and find out what frequency people are on and talk to them on that at a very basic level. So there's quite an extensive number. In fact, for someone who just wants to get into radio, way too many options. I would stick to FRS. Go buy a bubble pack, two radio, family radio service radio from Best Buy, Costco, or Amazon. Be careful about Amazon because Amazon does sell everything, and you can get radios that you're not legally allowed to use, and you could get yourself in trouble. On the community emergency response team side of things, we do everything legally. So I'm not going to advise that you do something illegal. And there's certainly a lot of possibility to do illegal things and get away with it, but you might get caught and then you might get into trouble. So we would never advocate for that. So FRS is just a great service, great free radio. You can, or not free radio, but free to use radio. And it, for the most part, if you're just going to talk to your immediate neighbors, those are going to be more than capable. However, I caution you, don't buy the cheapest radios out there. Don't buy the most expensive either. Go for something more mid-range. Look at the reviews. There are some very good reviews that thoroughly test radios. People with have tested, hundreds of radios out there, and they write a really good review on their capabilities. Look at them because you can definitely buy something that is complete and total junk, and it's going to be as useful as that complete and total junk could be. So step 2 is, now that you've turned your radio on, you want to listen to it. Hopefully you've already talked to your neighbors and you're all on the same channel, and listen to see if anyone's checking in. I remember step 0, check on your family, make sure everyone's safe. Step 1, turn on your radio. Step 2, start listening. And then if you don't hear anybody, go ahead and check in. Because there might be other people, some of your neighbors, who have also turned the radios on and they're just listening. So report your status. Are there any injuries, any damage to your home? Do you need any help? And that's going to hopefully get other people to check in as well. And by everyone checking in, you start to develop that situational awareness, and you're going to determine very quickly, how bad is it? Is this bad enough that we need to start a neighborhood response? Is this bad enough that we need to somehow get the professionals out there? But before you transmit always listen. You want to monitor. There is a tendency that our people have that they grab their radio, their volume is turned down, they're not paying attention to it, and need utter they need to get their message out there. And they immediately hit the push to talk button and start talking. And they start talking over someone. Only one person can talk on a two-way radio at a time. So if someone else is talking and you start transmitting, either they're going to win or you're going to win, or you're going to completely cancel each other out. And so if they have emergency traffic, they're talking about something that there is higher priority or really involves saving someone's life or limb, and you start talking about your power's out and your kids are hungry and it's cold, you might prevent someone from getting the emergency help that they need. So you want to listen for at least a minute. If there's an emergency and you need to transmit and you need help, then wait at least 30 seconds, because sometimes you might turn on your radio and you're right in between a conversation. And if you don't wait and listen, then you start transmitting when someone else is about to respond to someone else who just finished transmitting. Emergency traffic is anything that involves saving life or limb. Priority traffic is anything that's time sensitive. I need to get this message to someone right now, or this will happen very shortly thereafter. And then if you do have an emergency, announce it. Emergency traffic or priority traffic. If you do have that, say it 3 times. Emergency, 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 or priority, priority, priority. And then go ahead and give your information. Or if there's a conversation going on, wait till it finishes. Wait till it sounds like it's wrapped up. Wait a few seconds after that, and then go ahead and transmit and get your information out there. Example. For this example, my call sign is CERT 12 Gabriel 1. So I turn my radio on, I start to listen. I don't hear anybody checking in or talking for at least a minute. So I go ahead and key up my radio and I say, this is CERT 12 Gabriel 1, no injuries, no damage. And then I hear someone who's been waiting for someone else to check in respond back. This is 12 Portola 3, no injuries, broken window. Okay. Start to develop a picture here. We just had some sort of explosion, power's out. Someone else reports in that they have no injuries, but whatever this is, broke their window. Okay. And then I hear CERT 47 Huntington 4, pinned family member, partially collapsed roof. Well, things just got a whole lot more serious now. Whatever that explosion was, maybe it's closer to them than it is to me, and it actually damaged their building, but also trapped one of their family members. And then I hear, this is 47 Huntington 7, family member with possible broken leg, X cracks on one wall. Okay, now things got real. We have injuries and an X crack. When you see 2 cracks in the wall intersect each other and bisect each other going through, that means that the building has actually, the structure of the building has shifted so much that it's become compromised. And now that building is no longer safe to be in. It will collapse. If you decide at this point that you're going to set up a staging area or you're going to deploy to the staging area, let people know that you're going to do this. If this was an earthquake or something serious and you want everybody who's trained to go to the staging area, then it's probably going to take someone saying, hey, this sounds serious. We need to set up the staging area. I'm going to deploy there. Anyone else who can, go there as well. Because if you go there by yourself and you didn't tell anybody, you might not have anybody else going there. So let people know you're going to deploy. And if you have neighbors who are also trained, immediate neighbors, go as pairs, go as small teams. There's always safety in numbers. As you're going to the staging area, either you're driving there or you're walking there, observe what you're seeing. Do you see other buildings that have been damaged? Do you see people with help signs out? Do you see people outside that look scared, confused? Talk to them. Build that situational awareness. Find out if they have injuries or damage, because they might not have radios. See if there's any thing they need help. And then document this as you're going to the staging area. Don't get sidetracked. You don't want to say you're going to the staging area and then spend an hour talking to neighbors and never make it to the staging area. Especially if you're on your own, you don't want to respond to an incident and then become a victim and injured, or need more help and not be able to get that help. When you get to the staging area, if you do have incidents that you've documented that you know need help now, then you can respond back with the team. So we talked about really how to check in after an event, but how do you communicate efficiently on the radio? And this is probably one of the more difficult topics we can even discuss, because there's no real blueprint for every scenario. The best we've come up with is, we call them the 5 W's. And that is, who are you trying to reach? Who are you? Where are you? What do you have? And what do you need? And if you can document, write down, jot down these bullet points, and then answer them before you transmit, you're actually going to have a pretty good transmission. For example, and this goes back to after we hear everyone check in and you realize that we need to deploy to the staging area. So you transmit, this is CERT 12 Cabrillo 1, deploying to Monterey Hills staging area. We'll report when I get there. And then you hear, or you hope you hear, staging from 12 Portola 3 en route from Portola Terrace. Okay, I'm not the only one going to the staging area. This sounds great. People, as they're going in or checking in and letting people know about incidents they're discovering. Staging, CERT 12 Temple 2, corner of Via Marisol and Via Colina. Vehicle into building, 1 trapped survivor, conscious and uninjured. Vehicles off and situation is stable. Request incident response team. Here, staging, 47 Wilson 6, corner of Via Arbolada and Via Marisol. 20-year-old male, trip and fall with head strike. Survivor lost consciousness, but claims to be fine now. Requesting incident response team. Hopefully someone is documenting these as they're reporting in, or if you're going to be someone in a leadership role, maybe you should be documenting these as you hear them communicating in. Certainly, once you get to the staging area, you want to have someone documenting these reports as they come in over the radio. But you start to build that situational awareness of what's going on out there, and you realize this situation's getting pretty significant. And hopefully, there will be professional first responders coming, but you might be the first ones there, first ones able to help your neighbors. And then so you can stabilize them. And then as the professionals arrive, you can let them know what's going on. So part of what do I say is, who are you trying to reach? Having radios but no clearly defined people to talk to, your neighbors, a group, doesn't do you much good. So you really want to have a purpose for the radios and the communication. You also want to define what channels or frequencies you're going to be using. With FRS, we have channels. There's numbers on the radio. If you have a ham radio, you have frequencies. And there's a lot of different channels and a lot of different frequencies out there. So you really want to make sure you're on the same channel or on the same frequency as the group that you're trying to talk to. But also realize that there might be other groups out there, multiple people out there that are not part of your team. And a lot of the conversations going on the radio might not involve you or your group. So you really want to practice a lot with the radios on your channels and make sure that you are not sharing them with other people, and it might become confusing. You really want to make sure that you kind of establish ownership and be there a lot so that anyone who's picking a random channel doesn't think that your neighborhood channel's open and free to use as well. And then it becomes very confusing. Now, in regards to how many people you have in your group, you should talk about call signs. And as in the examples, we have a defined call sign system that we use as an example. If you're CERT trained, I don't think I have a slide on this. But if you're CERT trained, CERT, and then followed by a fire station and a street and a number. So if you're not CERT trained, but you're in Fire Station 12's area, you live on Portola, then 12 Portola, and you're the third one with the radio on Portola, 12 Portola 3. I'm CERT trained. I'm in Fire Station 12's first in. I live on Cabrillo, and I'm the first one with the radio on Cabrillo. So my call sign is CERT 12 Cabrillo 1. And you can see how it just makes it easy to identify people. Generally speaking, you don't want to use people's first names on the radio because you don't know who's listening in. But it's sometimes it's confusing if you have a bunch of people named Bob and several Bobs are talking on the radio and you're trying to reach Bob, but the wrong Bob answers. And it becomes very confusing, especially if their voices sound familiar or similar. But talk to your neighbors and have a clearly defined call sign system. And maybe it can be anything you want. This is just one of the examples. Our South Bureau group uses the street name followed by station. So Temple Station, Portola Station. I don't know that they have a good answer for what happens if there's multiple people on the same street. But I'll let them figure that out if that happens. And then understand that if there's multiple people talking on radio and it doesn't involve you, you're probably going to tune out that conversation. You're going to ignore it because you're doing other things. However, you should always know what your call sign is and be listening for it. People who are experienced in the radio, they will hear their call sign and immediately start listening and paying attention to it. So if you're trying to reach someone and they're not responding, you can give their call sign 3 times as like similar to the emergency and priority traffic. Give that message 3 times to get a better chance of getting through. Sometimes there's a lot of noise or interference on it, or someone's not listening, but they hear their call sign 3 times and they'll start paying attention. If you're reporting medical, do not give names over the radio. Do not give personal identifying information on the radio. And this is what the professionals do. The professionals only communicate age, sex, and chief complaint. I have a 15-year-old male trip and fall with a head strike. And I need paramedics, or I need incident response team to help out. One of the things you want to do when you communicate is identify who you are. Who are you communicating to, followed by who you are. Because again, if someone is only listening for their call sign and you say who you are first and then call them, they might not have heard who you are and don't know how to address you and get back to you. So, Portela 2, this is CERT 12 Cabrillo 1, not this is CERT 12 Cabrillo 1 for Portola 2, because Portola 2 hears their call sign Portola 2 and they weren't paying attention to the radio. They have no idea who's calling them. People are generally really bad at identifying voices over the radio. Some people are really good at it. Fair enough. But it's difficult to do that. And then as you start communicating and start building up a response team, you want to start identifying teams and positions, not people. It doesn't matter that I'm CERT 12 Cabrillo 1. It matters what my job is or the team that I'm on, because people shouldn't be trying to reach me necessarily. They should be trying to reach my team. Staging, Alpha team, Bravo team, staging manager, radio comms, or net control. Those are positions. And not the person, because the person may change. If I'm trying to reach the staging manager and it was Bob, who happens to be Portola 2, when I departed the staging area, and now I'm trying to reach Bob or Portola 2, but for some reason Bob had to go back home because of a family emergency, Bob is no longer listening to the radio, but I keep calling for Bob and Bob is not responding when I'm trying to actually reach the staging manager. And again, if you're having trouble reaching someone, give the call sign 3 times. Portola 2, Portola 2, Portola 2. This is Cabrillo 1. Here's my message. The other thing you want to do is make sure that someone's actually listening. Wait for an acknowledgement. A lot of times people are busy. They're not listening to the radio. They turned down the volume. They left their radio, walked away from it. If you give a full briefing over the radio, Portola 2, this is CERT 12 Cabrillo 1. We're at the staging area. I need you to pick up a pack of water on your way over here. Don't get the Dasani water. Make sure you get the Crystal Geyser. And only get bring a bag of ice and some firewood, and Portola 2 is not even listening, then I just tied up the airwaves and I think my message got out and Portola 2 never heard it. So what you want to do is reach out to them with their call sign, give them your call sign, and then wait for them to acknowledge. Portola 2, this is Cabrillo 1. Then I wait, and then I hear Cabrillo 1 from Portola 2, go ahead. Okay. Portola 2 is now listening, and they're ready to receive my traffic. I might hear Cabrillo 1 from Portola 2, stand by. Okay. They heard me, but they're busy. I'm going to wait. Sometimes you might not get an acknowledgement. Portola 2 from Cabrillo 1, nothing. Okay. Give it a minute. Still nothing. Portola 2 from Cabrillo 1. Portola 2 from Cabrillo 1. Portola 2 from Cabrillo 1. Cabrillo 1, this is Portola 2. Stand by. Okay. They heard me, but they didn't have a chance to get back to me. Um, if it's an emergency, that's when you start trying to more urgently get a hold of someone, but uh, don't be so quick to really get on the radio over and over again trying to get someone's attention. And finally, if you don't hear from them, send someone, have them walk, drive, run, whatever, to where the person you're trying to reach is, and hopefully they can get a hold of them that way. One of the things that we see all the time is that a conversation is in progress and chunks get missing. And so you hear people talking on the radio and you don't know who they are, or you're reaching out to someone, say I'm reaching out to Portola 2, and they finally get back to me, and I just start talking. And the people who are listening have no idea what's going on. In fact, Portola 2 doesn't even realize, because it took me a few minutes to respond back to Portola 2. Repeat who you're calling and who you are every time you start up a new part of that conversation. Portola 2 from Cabrillo 1, I need you to pick up a pack of water on your way over to the staging area. Portola 2 from Cabrillo 1, also pick up some firewood on your way over to the staging area. What you should also get is a confirmation. Cabrillo 1 from Portola 2 acknowledged picking up a pack of water and firewood and then bringing it over to the staging area. That way you know your message was received and they confirmed it. It's called positive confirmation. For those of you who have taken first aid, this is standard practice now as well. When direction is given in first aid, is positive confirmation. You have that person communicating back that they acknowledged you and they heard it, what you said, and they're confirming what you said in case something gets messed up and it's a game of telephone over the two-way radio. Where are you? Portola 2 from Cabrillo 1 from Monterey Hills staging area. Staging from Alpha Team. We're at the corner of Walk and Don't Walk. You identify your location because radios use batteries. Sometimes rechargeable batteries. Sometimes rechargeable batteries are not properly charged or are old and don't last very long. And more than once, someone's radio has died in the field and they were trying to communicate. When you're transmitting, it's using the most amount of power. So it might be hearing messages, but as soon as you start talking on the radio doesn't have enough power and now drops dead. So if you can at least get who you're trying to reach, who you are and where you are, if they can't get a hold of you after, they at least know where you were when you called in. And check in regularly. If you're out, you're doing a damage assessment and you're calling staging and letting them know, your Alpha Team, let them know where you are, because if they don't hear back from you, they need to know where to find you in case something happened to you. You happen to be walking along and fall into a giant sinkhole. You're going to hope that your team is going to want to find you and help you, because you're probably going to need their help at this point. So they need to know your last location and they should be tracking it. What do you have is really the gist of the purpose of your transmission. It doesn't need to be anything specific, but you're pushing information, you're sending information. There's a reason why you're calling on the radio. If you're calling staging, what do they need to know? What are you trying to tell them? Additionally, if you're just giving situational awareness and the radios aren't busy, that's fine as well. Let staging know ahead of it for your situational awareness only. You don't necessarily need something. You just want to let them know. Staging, this is Alpha Team. We have a tree branch down, no injuries, no damage at the corner of tree branch and used to be a car. If you do have some damage, it's a little more significant, but probably not much you're going to do about it. However, if you have injuries, that's when things start getting important and you want to do something about those injuries. But if it's just situational awareness and the radio is busy, you don't need to push it. Don't break into someone else's conversation just to tell them that a tree branch fell and didn't hurt anybody. Other times, you're encountering something and you want to let staging know that you have a potential. You want to get an incident number, or you just want to let them know where you are. You don't have the full picture yet, but you're going to provide it as soon as you do. Staging from Alpha Team, we're at the corner of Trip and Fall and Broken Neck. We have a trip and fall. We'll get back to you with more information. Can I get an incident number? And that way, at least staging knows where you are and to expect something back from you. Might be staging from Alpha Team regarding that trip and fall. No actual injury. The person's fine. Disregard. If you get an incident number, it's easier to follow up with. Staging regarding incident number 5 from Alpha Team. This is a 22-year-old female with a trip and fall head strike. She lost consciousness, but she's feeling fine right now. We're going to monitor for her for a few more minutes, and then we're going to see if we can get her passed off to a neighbor. Or maybe you need something. Staging regarding incident number 5, confirming this is a 22-year-old female head strike from a trip and fall. She lost consciousness. We need a incident response team to figure out how we can get her to the emergency room. Or we need to transport. Regarding incident number 5, 22-year-old female trip and fall with a head strike. She is currently unconscious. We need to get a rescue ambulance or get her to the hospital. This is also one of the things that stumps people. When do you transmit? Well, generally I say, does staging need to know about this? If yes, that's when you transmit. If you're walking up on something and it's not a big deal right now, don't transmit. But if this could become something, maybe let staging know about this. And you'll get back with more information, just so they have your location. They're aware that you're doing something and not, just taking the scenic way back on your route. Or do you need more resources? You let staging know that you have something and now it's become a big deal and you do need help. You need another team. You need transport. You need professional responders there. Ask yourself, though, before you transmit, what do I expect to get out of this? Am I pushing information just for situational awareness, or do I need something? Am I saying staging, I need another team, I need transport? Have a plan for your communication, a purpose for it. More importantly, can it wait? Do you need to send this information right now, especially if there's another conversation going on? Or is this something that is time sensitive? I need to send this right now because this could get worse and I need to start building this incident number so that staging's aware as I get more information, I'm going to be sending it to them. Do I need to occupy the airwaves? Remember, only one person can talk on the air on a two-way radio at a time. So if I'm talking, no one else can talk. We oftentimes get people transmitting too much or too little information. A good rule of thumb is to keep radio transmissions between 30 to 60 seconds at the most. Some radios will actually cut you off if you talk on them for too long. You'll be talking, 5 minutes goes by, and then you'll hear a loud beep coming from the radio or a buzzing sound. Radios generate heat when they transmit. So sometimes the longer you talk on a radio, the hotter it will get. It will burn through battery life. So if you're talking 5 minutes at a time on a radio, you're going to burn through the battery a lot faster than if you're doing 30-second transmissions. Sometimes we have people who say too little. And if you're on the other end, now you're trying to fish information out from them. Alpha Team, what is your location? Alpha Team, do you need additional resources? Alpha Team, what is your situation? Please say again. So it's really a balancing act. And if we go back to the 5 W's and you compose your message, you write down your message, you're going to have a good transmission. Staging from Alpha Team. We're at the corner of Walk and Don't Walk. We have a 20-year-old female trip and fall with a head strike. We need transportation. We need help. We need more resources. It's a good, solid piece of communication. If they have more questions, they'll ask at that point. But you've given them enough to get started and they don't have to fish for information. A lot of times we'll get staging from Alpha Team. We have a person who fell, hit their head. Cool. Alpha Team from staging, what's your location? Can I get an age, sex, and chief complaint? So this is something you really have to practice to get good at. Don't expect the first time you pick up a radio that you're just going to be perfect at communicating on it and using it. Additionally, use plain English. We don't use 10 codes. You hear somebody talking about 10-4, 10-3, 10-5. Even police agencies that use 10 codes to use different 10 codes. While you think you're showing off and sending all the information in a 10 code that you need, people on the other side have no idea what you're talking about or get the wrong information. And so you don't want to use that. Just say what you mean in plain English and don't give unnecessary details. No flowery language. You can cut a lot of the words out of your transmission. You can cut down those 5 W's pretty significantly. You can say it as I'm reaching to staging. This is Alpha Team. We are at the corner of Alvarado and Figueroa. We have a person who fell, hit their head. They look like they're female, 20 years old-ish. They're not conscious. We're investigating to see what's going on. That's a lot of unnecessary words. And cut that down to staging, Alpha Team, corner of Alvarado and Figueroa. 20-year-old female with a head strike, unconscious. We are investigating, requesting an incident number. A lot less words. But got the same information out there more efficiently. That takes a lot more practice to do than as you're stumbling around for the first time on your radio. But that's what the goal is of communicating efficiently on the radio. And if you jot down the bullet points, the 5 W's, who are you trying to reach? who are you, where are you, what do you have, and what do you need, then you can really cut out the extra words. Again, if they need more information, I'll ask for it. A lot of times we have people who don't think about what they're going to transmit, and they key the radio and their mind goes blank. The saying is, it's push to talk, not push to think. But we get that all the time. Staging, this is, where are we again? I think we're Alpha Team. We're what's the, is it Figueroa? And what's the closest cross street? You'll hear this on the radio, and they'll tie up the radio for a solid 2 minutes trying to get that short blast of information out. So write down what you want to say, speak in a calm, even tone and pace. You can expect people to write things down, but you don't want to be so painfully slow that everyone's yelling at you to speed up. Staging. This is Alpha Team. We are at, yeah, we've heard that on the radio too. Staging, Alpha Team, corner of walk and don't walk. 30-year-old female, trip and fall, head strike. Requesting transport to hospital. Straightforward, to the point, concise. If you lose your train of thought or you get interrupted, then it's fine to stop, recompose, and restart your transmission. Staging, Alpha Team, corner of walk and don't walk. Standby. Okay? Cool. Get off the radio. When you're ready to go again, staging from Alpha Team, corner of walk and don't walk. We have a 30-year-old female, trip and fall, head strike, requesting transport to hospital. Don't tie up the radio. Reason why we use call signs and not our names is because all radio communication is public. We should assume that all radio communication is being monitored. Even if you have what's called a privacy channel, all radio transmission is easily monitored. So you don't want to give sensitive information out, addresses, people's names. There's what are called personal call signs, and that's where the person is the person you're trying to reach. CERT 12 Gabriel 1, 6 Broadway 3, CERT 47 Huntington 1, or tactical call sign, which is position based. Staging, Alpha Team, Bravo Team Leader, Staging Manager, Incident Response Team, Echo Team. Those are not necessarily you're trying to reach a particular person, but you're trying to reach something who might be different than it was earlier in the day. No personal information on the radio. So, you've checked on your family, step 0. You've turned on your radio and started monitoring. You've checked in. You've shared your information, and now you've decided to go to the staging area, set everything up, and ask for other people to go there. At that point, you're going to start forming teams and responding. And maybe you're just still building that situational awareness. You want to find out how bad this is, or you're trying to get a hold of the fire department, and because power's out, cell phone doesn't work, so you can't call 911. You're sending a team over to the fire station to let them know, and they've got radios, and you're going to send information that way. There's a lot of different ways you can do it. One of the ways we've been doing it for the last several years is trying to keep the positions to a minimum. You have a team leader, you have a scribe, a radio communicator, you have hands-on responder pairs. You can develop a full ICS chart, an incident command system chart, and have 50 different positions. But you really don't need that. If this is day 5 of the incident and you have all of your neighbors involved, sure, you're going to have a fully developed incident command system chart. But if we're talking about minute 10 after the explosion, you're going to be lucky if you have 3 people. And so really don't overthink it. Don't feel the need to assign everyone a position and a role. Keep it simple. Are you a team leader? Are you a scribe? Are you a radio communicator? If you're not one of those 3, you're probably a hands-on responder. And then you don't need a bunch of different teams. Really, damage assessment team, they're going to find out how bad it is, and then incident response teams. And the damage assessment teams are only going to be maybe for the first hour. And then they're going to switch roles and become incident response teams. Because you already know what's going on there at that point, and now you want to help your neighbors. At the staging area, you're going to need to augment as time goes on and you get more people helping. You want to have additional scribes and radio communicators. Damage assessment teams. If you predefine the damage assessment route and you have it on a map and your team knows where they're going, Alpha team, you're taking this route. Here's a map. It's got the routes on it. Follow this route, call in every time you turn and every time you encounter an incident. And if we don't hear from you, call in every 15 minutes. Then you don't hear from Alpha team. Well, this is the last time they checked in and they're following this route. They should be somewhere along that route versus just wander around with the radio. If we don't hear from you, we have no idea where you are. Maybe we'll find you at some point. We'll look for that giant sinkhole that you maybe fell into. When we've been practicing, our damage assessment teams are no more than 3 people, no less than 3 people, exactly 3 people. Team leader, radio operator, and scribe. And then the radio operator and scribe are a pair, and the team leader's job is to keep them safe. When you're communicating in from a damage assessment team, your communication is going to be pretty simple. Staging, Alpha team, corner of Via Marisol and Via Colina, vehicle in the building. We are investigating and requesting an incident number. Called ahead. You saw something, you called staging, you let them know something's going on. You don't have all the details yet, but now staging is aware of it. You're requesting an incident number so you can report back on it. And then they know to expect more information from you. If they don't hear from you, maybe there's another explosion coming from that direction, they're going to start calling for you. Alpha team from staging. Alpha team from staging. Alpha team respond. All right, we need to send someone to go find out what happened to Alpha team. Once you get that incident number, then you just report back on the incident number, and it saves you a lot of time of explaining over and over again that situation. Staging, Alpha team. Regarding incident 7, 1 trapped survivor, conscious and uninjured. Vehicle is off and situation is stable. Request incident response team. Address is 4478 Via Marisol at the intersection of Via Colina. Again, don't say it too fast. Don't say it too slow. You do want to emphasize important pieces of information, expecting people to write it down. So you're going to slow down at that when you're giving an address. 4478. Enunciate. Make it very clear what you're saying. 4478 Via Marisol. If you have to spell it, do that. or if they request you to spell it, then you can spell it out. Staging, Bravo team, corner of Via Arbolada and Via Marisol. 20-year-old male, trip and fall with head strike. Survivor lost consciousness, but claims to be fine now. Requesting incident response team. The incident response teams, those are a little bit bigger. They have more resources, more people, hopefully people with medical training. After an incident's been reported in, they can go out and work the incident and bring it to a conclusion. The way we've been doing it is response teams, incident response teams have 5 to 7 people. Same composition as a damage assessment team with the team leader, radio communicator, and scribe, but now they have hands-on responder pairs. Pairs earn 2, so you either have 1 pair, which is 2 people, or 2 pairs, which is 4 people. 3 plus 2 is 5. 3 plus 4 is 7. Odd numbers here. Odd numbers discourage teams from breaking up. If you have 6 people on a team, they could potentially break up 3 and 3. If you have 4 people on a team, they can potentially break up 4 and 4. If you have 2 people, you don't have a team. You have a pair. You need that team leader to keep them safe. And you don't want a huge team out there. You don't want 10 people on a team out there because that could have been 2 5-people teams. Or if you have a few extra people, they can support at staging if you need to. When you have an incident response team, you can actually break them off, break off a responder pair. So you encounter something, you're walking out to the incident, and someone runs up and says, "Oh, help, help, help. I need you to come this way." If you have extra FRS radios, you can communicate on them within the team. It's a more advanced way of doing things, but it is a potential. You're going to get a little more detail coming from the incident response team. You want a radio when you get there to the incident and confirm the address. Staging, Echo team, regarding incident number 7. We are on scene at 4478 Via Marisol, near Via Colina. Assessing, we'll report with more information. Staging now knows Echo team is at incident number 7 and has confirmed the address of incident number 7. If Echo team reports incident number 7 is at a completely different address, staging is going to have some questions. I won't say that never happens. This is why we want to confirm the address where they're at, because Echo team might get to what they think is incident number 7. They found a car crashed into a building. They didn't check the address. You actually have 2 incidents, 2 cars, 2 different buildings. But because no one checked the address, they think they're at the incident they're supposed to be at when they're at a completely different incident. Following up communication, staging, Echo team, incident number 7, driver has been extracted from vehicle. Vehicle is off and safe. Driver is uninjured. Basically, the incident's complete at this point. You don't have any injured people. Vehicle is not posing a risk or danger to anyone else. They're going to request a new incident. Staging, Foxtrot. Incident number 9. Patient is coherent and does not think he lost consciousness. He is with a family member and they will monitor him in case he gets worse. Staging from Gulf. Incident 12. Patient has obviously broken leg and possible internal injuries, requesting transport to hospital. Clear, concise, and to the point. If staging has more questions, wants more information, they'll ask for it. Not too much, not too little. So this is probably outdated. I really like the Midland GXT 1000s. I don't know what their current price is. Um, I like radios with AA batteries. Yes, they usually come with rechargeables, and that's great when you're doing like weekly or monthly check-ins. Use those rechargeables, but then carry the actual alkaline AA batteries with you. What you'll find is radios that use AAA batteries go dead a lot faster than the batteries with the AA's. And store the batteries unused in their original container. Don't put them in the radio. Use the rechargeables until you need to actually use the AA's, and then you have the AA's available to you. But those Midland GXT 1000s have been rock solid and outperform all the other radios. And there's a good reason. It's using 4 AA batteries instead of 3. We've had people come up using $10 Cobra junk radios, and they heard maybe half the transmissions that other radios were hearing, and maybe a quarter of the people could hear them. So you do really get what you pay for. Don't overspend, but don't underspend either. Again, I think everyone should get an FRS radio, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. But if your neighborhood or local team is going to use GMRS, get a GMRS license. If everyone is a ham radio operator in your team, cool. Or you want to talk to your local ham group, cool. Get your license. Get your ham radio license. You can even have a mobile radio in your car. Have a bunch of antennas on there. You've seen those people with the 15 radios and the 50 antennas on their roof. I'm going to say don't get a CB radio, but if you like chatting with people, truckers and people who like to curse on the radio, CB is probably where you're going to be. MERS, I'm going to say, unless your team uses it, don't get it. Get the FRS radio. Commercial radios, some groups will issue radios to you. Then you're using their license. So if you have any questions, you can reach me at lafdcertcentral@gmail.com. But we'll go ahead and ask for any questions. Let me go ahead and stop my share. All right. Chin, have you been following the chat? I have not. Mike, go ahead and let me allow unmutes. All right. Actually, Chin, go ahead and unmute yourself first, and I know you wanted to talk about something. Then we'll ask for questions after. Is Chin still here?
Okay.
Not seeing Chin. Did we lose Chin? All right. Well, that plan didn't go as according. Mike, did you have a question, comment?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
My wife and I, many years ago, got ham radio licenses, and we just renewed them. And it's time for us to learn how to use them again. So we both have handheld ham radios, are most the inexpensive ones. Can we configure them for family for the FRS radios?
Legally, no. I'm going to leave it at that. Not going to tell you what you can or can't do, but legally, a ham radio is a ham radio. It is not an FRS radio. It is not a public safety radio. It is not a MERS radio. It is not a CB radio. Whether or not it can, that is technically a technical question, but
Oh, I
legally,
see. I see. So what I should have asked, can they be easily configured and ethically used? And your answer is no.
so the answer is a little murky on that one. The cheap Chinese radios do not have blocks in them. The more legitimate more expensive ham radios, ICOM, Kenwood, they have blocks in place so you cannot transmit on FRS. You may be able to monitor FRS, and that is legal. You can listen, but a radio that's not approved to transmit cannot legally transmit, even if it technically can.
Oh, okay, I understand that. So, okay. So we like our little ham handhelds and we can talk to each other legally. Are we going to be SOL if there's an emergency and we can't get a hold of the CERT people who are 4 blocks away from us because we don't have an FRS?
I mean, I'd recommend getting FRS. Have your
Okay,
ham radios tuned to the ham channels or frequencies that you know you
yeah,
can communicate with,
yeah.
and then having 2 radios is a good idea.
Oh,
It
yeah.
takes a little practice. I
2
mean, like,
radios, 85 batteries.
I mean, this is also why I like AA. If you have all your radios use AA, um, it just makes things easier.
But I don't like AA2s and 9-volt batteries are not good.
No, I don't know what radios use 9 volt, but a lot of them do use AAA, and even like the ham radios that can use AAAs burn through that battery real fast.
Mm.
Even if there's like 6 AAAs in there, it does not last long.
So I should look into the latest reviews on FRS radios. Next time I go to Costco, maybe see what they got.
Exactly.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'm starting to read through some of the chat. I would say the big thing really is the biggest hurdle for radio use is that people are mic shy. It scares them to pick up a radio and push the talk button and actually talk on the radio. And if you can get a group to do a weekly or monthly net check-in, I would recommend weekly because it gives you more chances and opportunities. Just check in with your call sign. And that gets you used to using the radio and gets you over that mic fright. And then go to a drill and get it wrong there. Practice getting it wrong there. The annoying part is all the people who are going to these drills now have to deal with you getting it wrong. But you're going to the drill not to make other people happy. You're going to the drill to learn for yourself how to do it. And so if I'm pissing off everyone else at the drill because I'm saying, I want to use the radio, I want to practice getting it wrong now so I can get it right later, let them be pissed. You're there, they're there for the same reason. Someone points out best practice for groups is to get the same brand and model. Agree 100%. If you have a variety of different radios and one person doesn't know how to use it, their particular radio, other people might not be able to help them because everyone's got a different radio. But if everyone has the same radio, then it just makes things a lot easier. And you know they work together because they're the same model. Someone's asking about explain step. So as I mentioned, only one person can talk on the radio at a time. When someone's talking on the radio and you hit that push to talk button and start talking on the radio and your radio wins and you start talking on top of them, that's called stepping on them. Say if someone's laying down and you literally step on top of them, same premise with the radio. Someone mentions the location app, What Three Words. Sometimes giving a location is difficult to do, um, especially if you're in, say, a wilderness area and you're trying to use coordinates or something unwieldy. What Three Words breaks the world down to a grid. I think it's 5 feet by 5 feet. And each grid square has a 3-word identifier. Ham, cheese, omelet, for example. You can then search for ham, cheese, omelet, and it will identify that 5 by 5 square where that person is transmitting from. LAFD actually in their 911 call centers uses What Three Words. So if you call 911 and you say, I am at What Three Words, ham, cheese, omelet, then they can actually identify where you are. It's a good app to have on your phone. And if you're out in the field practicing with radio and everybody's using What Three Words, is actually can be very effective. Oh, yes. Radios advertise ridiculous numbers. They'll say they can transmit for 35 or 50 miles. The way that works is if you are there, all radios are line of sight. If you are on a mountaintop uh, and you can see for 50 miles around you, and you can see someone 50 miles away when you're on the mountaintop and they're at the bottom of the mountain 50 miles away, you can talk to them. However, in most situations, we're talking about a flat neighborhood or a hilly neighborhood, and radios are line of sight. You're lucky if you get a few blocks, maybe a mile at best, but don't expect much more than 1 mile. Very likely don't expect more than 3 blocks with your radios. And if you're in a hilly neighborhood, don't expect to talk to someone on the other side of the hill. Any other questions? Raise your hand, put it in the chat. Yes, buildings are generally a problem. FRS radio penetrates buildings okay, but it really drops the range down. If you're inside a building, you're going to have more trouble talking to people outside the building. Even if you go outside the building, you could talk to someone 3 blocks away. If you go inside the building, you're probably only going to be able to talk maybe a block at or just outside the building. So again, these are line of sight. The more things in between you and the person you're trying to talk to, the less likely you're going to be able to reach them and communicate. And there's other weird stuff out there. We've done a lot of drills where we've lost people north of a certain location, and we've lost 2 teams that went up there. As soon as they crossed the street, we just lost them. Some weird interference up there, we don't know. They use radio frequencies, and so there's things, lights, high powered transmitters, all sorts of weird things out there, electronics, engines, generators. They all cause interference, and they can break radio communications a lot. Someone's curious about best ham frequencies for emergency monitoring. I don't have an answer for that. You're going to have to check in your local area, talk to your local ham groups. Chances are it's going to be a repeater set up for emergency communications. I mentioned the PAPA system here. There are repeaters that have been set up by amateurs that have backup battery generators, all sorts of stuff. And maybe there's a membership fee for it, or they're just open use. Search in your area for that. You'll probably find it. Forested areas regarding reception transmission. Trees, hills, other things may cause line of sight issues. The more powerful your radio is, the higher your antenna is. If you're talking on a repeater that's higher up, that's going to be the best way. Again, that starts to get into the ham and GMRS side of things. But if you're using an FRS radio in the woods and there's a lot of trees, I would not expect it to transmit that far. But try it, practice, experiment, get with a group, see what your radios are capable of in your neighborhood. Your neighborhood's going to be different than my neighborhood. And all of our neighborhoods are going to be different than someone else's neighborhood. So the most important thing is to practice and find out the limitations of your equipment and then get used to them and find workarounds. If your neighborhood is split on either side of a hill, put someone at the top of the hill that can be a relay point, or look into getting a ham radio license for everyone and set up a repeater at the top of the hill. Someone's talking about portable repeaters. Yes, but again, requires licenses, either GMRS, ham radio, or commercial. And then you need someone to really orchestrate or design this system. It's hard to just, there's no good turnkey, do this, 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 and this, and you're going to have a perfect system. It really needs to be planned out and designed, and then make sure it's licensed. An emergency, I have an FRS radio to call for help. Do I just scan the frequencies until I get contact? You need to have someone you're going to try and talk to with a radio. Just having a radio and no one to talk to, it's a paperweight. Maybe you can get a hold of someone. Maybe you're going to find a kid you're talking to a 7-year-old in an FRS radio. That 7-year-old's probably not going to be the person you want to reach out to for help. Radios are, if you have a plan, you have people to talk to, that's when the radios are going to work. Just having a radio for the sake of having a radio isn't going to get you much. Any other questions, comments, editorials? All right. Thank you very much for coming. We might have something special coming up in March. We're working on it. Guest speaker. We'll let you know. If we'll send out information through the normal channels, through the email lists and Facebook groups, and let you all know. Have a good night, everyone.